This is the Criterion Creeps podcast, and tonight we're talking about The Leopard from 1963, directed by Luchino Visconti.
Who?
Luchino Visconti's Enduring Romantic Adventures, the tagline, RJ.
Enduring romantic adventure?
Yep.
That is not really what I thought when I had watched this.
As Garibaldi's troops begin the unification of Italy in the 1860s, an aristocratic Sicilian family grudgingly adapts to the sweeping social changes undermining their way of life. Proud but pragmatic Prince Don Fabrizio Salina allows his war hero nephew, Tancredi, to marry Angelica, the beautiful daughter of gauche bourgeois Don Calogero, in order to maintain the family's accustomed level of comfort and political clout.
Political clout. Do you think that was written nowadays? Because I've never heard people use the word clout more than in the last 6 months, I think. But it wasn't.
Clout.
Right?
Clout's a word.
Yeah, but it's more popular now. Kids are saying clout.
Are they talking about clout?
The kids I know are.
What kind of kids are you hanging out with in garages?
Kids who talk about clout and skateboard and shit.
Are they falling off skateboards too?
No, they have good balance.
Okay.
They know what they're doing.
So, hey, RJ, first things first.
Yeah.
This is 2 Palme d'Or winners in a row.
How does that work?
Tin Drum last week,
Oh, okay.
Leopard this week.
What's the Palme d'Or?
It's a fancy award. It's like it's the best in show.
Does that mean anything?
Con, I guess.
Does that mean anything?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me won it. Barton
Ooh.
Fink won it.
Those are good shows.
Parasite won it, I think.
Did it? What about Crash, the Paul Haggis movie? Did that win the Palme d'Or?
I don't think it did. I don't think it did.
So
anyway,
it doesn't mean. Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything. So The Leopard, this is a movie I've owned on Blu-ray for several years. I've never seen it, though.
Okay.
2 reasons. Number 1, Burt Lancaster is in it. And I'm a Burt Lancaster fan. And
So that's why you haven't seen it?
Well, it's why I bought it to watch it. But I was also a little like, this movie's 3 hours long and is very costumey.
I thought you liked costumes.
Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It all depends. These costume period dramas, I don't know. Sometimes like a My Fair Lady comes along and it's like, this is the most boring thing I've ever seen in my entire life. But
what's the alternative?
Well, we'll discuss that.
Okay.
So the other thing that had put this movie on my radar for a long time was this is one of Martin Scorsese's favorite movies.
Aren't they all, though?
Aren't they all his favorite movies? Well, unless they're Marvel movies.
Those aren't movies. Those are roller coasters.
Roller coasters. I saw someone on Twitter recently, I think it was maybe some Marvel account, saying he says that Marvel movies aren't cinema. Look at these 4 screenshots from Thor, and I think someone's like, these look like a rail shooter, and you look at them, you're like, this looks like video game cutscenes. It's like whatever. It's just this isn't a good indicator. They're very pretty pictures, but anyway. Let's not go down that road. So these were the 2 factors that I put. But I knew absolutely nothing about this movie going in.
Okay.
I didn't know what period of time it was. Even after watching the movie, I had no idea what period of time it was. But it seemed like Sicily was in a rough spot.
Well, I mean, it depends on how you define rough. Because honestly, watching Sicily and then just watching stuff looking out the window, it's pretty similar, no?
Yeah. So,
right?
So this movie is for the conflict, I guess, of this. It's contemporaneous to the Civil War in America, pretty much. It's 1860.
Okay.
So we got honestly, this movie, it's really not about the story. It's not about the plot. There's 3 hours of it, but for the most part, it has nothing to do with what's the goings-ons are. There's one really amazing, great action set piece with real actors running through the streets, charging around, fighting, hanging rich people. And then after that, though, it's a lot of like conversing, traveling across a prairie landscape, trying to find basically being refugees temporarily, getting back home, and waiting for power to come back into place. And then it's just like a lot of talking, a lot of scenes in gigantic palatial rooms. But my goodness, RJ, this movie looks absolutely amazing.
Does it?
The entire time I was watching this movie, I was just like holy shit. These colors, the walls, the way that everything's shot, the costumes. I was just like watching it purely for visual reference. Maybe it's because I've been doing a lot of painting lately, that I've been like really noticing color shifts and stuff like that. And I was just watching this movie the whole time, being like, oh, I kind of get why old Marty is into this movie, and we talk about like how beautiful it is, because yeah, it really is. Movies like this simply don't get made at all like this whatsoever. Like on location. I think some of it, though, I feels like it was probably shot on sets. I could be wrong on that, though. What do you think?
Why shot on sets?
Some of it,
like some of the outdoor ones, or what?
In what? No, the what? Outdoor,
like the landscapes.
Those would not be sets. I'm thinking interiors.
Well, that's why you gotta ask, big guy.
Yeah, so like it looks like the interiors were shot in Rome.
Okay, well that's not Sicily. Fucking liars.
They lied to you.
I mean, I couldn't really tell. I just assumed everything was a set, but I was also like, maybe it is an old castle.
Looks
like they're there.
My thinking on that, well, I mean, I guess my thinking there would be like to actually shoot and light this stuff would become a lot more difficult when you're like in a remote area that probably has like a generator. But then you have to like run everything off of that to light this stuff on location of these castles. And the way that this movie shot, I just don't think they could pull it off. Like the amount of craftsmanship that goes into the costumes and backgrounds, production, like you need to have a lot of control. And I think you'd have to have like controlled sets. And so ergo like it is sets rather than like on location shooting. But it pulls it off, I think, really well, because I mean you didn't even think about it. It's only in my head that I'm like, hey, wait a minute, this can't be the same space. It's too perfect. Yeah. It's too movie-ish, but it's okay, because it's not like we're watching a Roger Corman movie set in an old manor that is clearly a set. It's like clearly shot in like a space that's like, well, I don't know. It's supposed to be a 1860s palace that should not look as run down as it does here in a 1963 movie. If that makes sense. That's one of those weird things for me that kinda. like when you watch movies, I find, well, not you as in you,
me specifically,
the royal you.
Okay.
But like when you watch this stuff, like I love when you see like rusted out walls and like water damage. But then you think like, well, how old were these buildings when they were living in them? Like I feel like they look too aged for like a movie that's supposed to be in the period that they probably were recently erected, but now we're going to shoot them 100 years after the fact, and they're just living in the space, but they don't do anything to clean it up and make it look pristine like it did. It's a weird disconnect, because things should look new, but then people think, oh, this is fake looking because it looks too new. But you're like, well, no, it would have been new in the time that it was in. You dig?
No.
Okay.
I do understand what you mean. I don't think about that stuff ever, but I know that you do, because you are.
I'm made that way.
How do you phrase? Never mind. Are you into Gundams?
No.
Okay.
Nope, not that part of that.
Okay. Good.
That sphere.
The sphere. It's a sphere. Tell me more about production.
Well, this movie's got it in spades.
Okay. Nice.
I wish I would have had more time to delve into some of the probably great documentaries about the production, but sure. I had to hand off my physical copy of The Leopard to you, RJ.
Well, I don't know if you know this.
Because this is not on the Criterion channel.
Exactly. Well, a bunch of horse shit, hey?
Garbage.
How do they not have all of their movies? What is this rights bullshit? They're like, we don't own the rights anymore. It's like, what? But don't you... What's the difference between actual production of a movie and then on the channel? Is it because they only have production rights for like a couple, like a period of time, like 2 years they're allowed to make the Leopard, or is the Leopard still available to purchase?
I think it's still available to buy.
Like, do you know what I mean though? Like, what is the difference between them actually making these movies and then having them on the channel? They don't have streaming rights. Yeah, you can buy it right now, Criterion, for Blu-ray for $62 Canadian on Amazon.
Absolutely.
Now, do you know what I mean? I was just like,
yeah.
what is...
I don't know. These movies cycle in and
mean?
out. We just have to hope that when we have to watch one of these movies that it's still available for us. Because we're hitting a phase where I think the next 8 movies, I don't own any of them.
So I don't do a lot of research, but I did look, and I think the next whole month, they're all on the channel until we hit... and then after a month from now, we don't get any of them. From, I think, Port of Shadows, Slacker, Videodrome, Battle Algiers. Yeah. So until September, we're good. And then from September, October, I think we have a couple rough months where none of them are on the channel.
Exciting.
Yeah, very exciting. You know about Scaramouche?
I know about Donna Faguda.
What's a Donna Faguda?
That's a place. We're a summer palace of the prince, Burt Lancaster, Prince of Selena, Don Fabrizio Corbera. This movie, The Leopard, that we're supposed to be talking about. He flees there.
What does he do there?
I don't know. He waits this whole civil uprising, the middle class taking things over, kicking the ruling class to the curb, at least more or less. There's an election held, and it kind of goes in the way that corruption goes.
The plebiscite?
Yeah, they have one of those things. The nationalists win, RJ.
I was surprised that they were bold enough to say that it was 540-0, because it seems like it's possibly tampered with. But I feel like if you wanted to do that more efficiently, you'd say there was 2 or 3 votes against, just because then if anyone did vote against, then they'd be like, oh, well, I guess no one else did. But just to say flat out 0. But I guess the point is they don't care?
Pretty much.
Okay. That's fine too.
Yeah. They're not going to do nuance with their fixed election.
Okay. I'm just trying to piece it all together,
So, anyway,
yeah.
There's goings-ons in the palace. His nephew, he knows that this his uncle Prince, he's got some side pieces here and there. He steps out of the town. He's not this great upstanding guy, but this prince, or the prince, it's this age thing. The nephew, he's kind of a war hero or a battle hero of sorts.
He's an alleged handsome war hero.
Played by Alan Delon.
Alec Baldwin is in this movie?
Not quite. Remember Alan Delon? Remember him from Le Cercle Rouge? Remember that guy?
Is he the sex pest in Le Cercle Rouge? Yeah, I remember him in Le Cercle Rouge.
There you go.
Le Cercle Rouge. He's also in a movie called Le Samurai. Don't know what that is.
Oh, but you've seen that image before. You've seen that Criterion DVD.
I know.
You like that drive, right?
Oh yes. I just trying to get a rouse out of the Criterion fans out there,
They get real mad.
They do get mad, but what are you gonna do?
So anyway,
yeah.
There's Don Caligaro, the ruling power that's nearby. He's got a daughter, a real fetching lass.
A what?
Fetching lass.
Okay.
So
Continue.
the nephew's got eyes for her because she's like, I guess because she kind of, I kept thinking of Catherine Zeta-Jones when she was on screen.
For the fetching lass? For
Yeah,
Angelica? Claudia Cardinale?
yeah,
From 8.5, Jarrett?
yeah.
From Fitzcarraldo?
It's
From
Caraldo.
Jesus of Nazareth?
No. Here, though, I mean, take a look at this. Like she's got that Catherine Zeta-Jones look more so here than I think in those other films.
I was thinking more Selma Hayek.
Selma Hayek.
Do you like the pronunciation on that?
You really you killed it.
Yeah, that's who I was thinking of with this was Selma Hayek. For I don't know why.
She's got those eyebrows.
The eyebrows and the hair, and I don't know. I was just like, this reminds me of Selma Hayek. I don't know.
So everyone's really into her. There's a lot of like lechery going on here. Looking into her. We get Corbera's a guy. They go on a hunting trip, and he's giving a whole lay down like, oh yeah, I'd love to smell her bed sheets. Which that's a new one.
Whoa,
that's a new one to me.
I thought that was actually I thought that was you who wrote that. I was like, Jarrett was part of the screenplay development on this.
No.
By the way, I tried to take screenshots, but my laptop doesn't play Blu-rays, so I wasn't able to. So I had a lot of stuff. I had some good stuff, but it's too bad.
God damn.
Yeah. So tell me more about this bedsheet thing you're into.
What?
Well, you're talking about the thing that you do.
Well, RJ.
Yeah.
What is the leopard in reference to the title?
It's a metaphor, Jarrett.
It's a metaphor.
It's a metaphor.
There's a line of dialogue that talks about it.
Well, it's the upper crust, and the upper crusts is the leopards and the lions, and the lower crust, the lower crust, Jarrett, are the other guys.
The sheep, the sheep and the jackals.
The sheep and the jackals. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then the leopards and the lions, they're going to have to hang out with them. And he's like, I don't want any piece of this. I'm too good. I'm too good for this shit.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's got that political clout, Jarrett. He's got the clout. That scene where he gives his leopard monologue. That's actually like for a long monologuing scene, which this movie has many. That one is like it's pretty sharp. You're just watching it. You're just watching him talk about leopards and his like unwillingness for change, and you're like, man, this guy's charismatic. Look at him.
I mean, he's rich. He's convincing you of it all, right?
He is. Like, look at how well groomed he is. He bathes.
I mean, there's these like so. This will probably be a sticking point, perhaps, for people who hate this film. But sure. I was thinking about this often, being like, you don't really. This movie is pretty like unrepentant and being like, yeah, this guy's like got it all, but hey, he's got problems too. You should have sympathy for this dude as he looks out at his like, thousands of acres of this land that he just inherited, never worked a day in his life, and you're like, yeah, why would he want to give that up?
Well, so I don't want to play my hand too soon here, Jared.
Yeah.
But the way I was reading this thing, it's like, because I know many times I've said I don't really give a shit about like movies about rich people who are mopey, because it's like, who gives a shit? But the stuff that I found him to be like extremely like, I don't even want to say like nihilistic, but he's just like all the things he does or like the stuff he talks about, he's just like, it seems like he's put off by it, like especially in the end in the ball where he's just walking around and he's like, look, these fucking people. He's like, they suck. And I was like, I kind of root for him in that sense, because it's like he's almost rejecting it, even though he said he doesn't want it. He's also like seeing the like the ridiculousness of like the grandeur of things. He's like, look at these fucking people. And then he goes and walks around in the alleys because he's like, fuck them. So I actually did kind of like sympathize with him a little bit, because it's like, I don't care about the rich people thing, but it's like he almost seems like he's rejecting it, but
by the end,
near the end, yeah. But more or less, he's just like, he's had it with him, Jarrett. He sees the change coming in, and he's like, fuck him. So that's the leopard, man. Illegal leopard, man.
Yeah.
You remember that Dave Chappelle skit?
Nope.
Okay. Someone out there will. Someone
out there. But yeah, so I mean, we watched the 185-minute U.S. uncut version.
Sure
There's
did.
apparently the U.S. theatrical release, which is the English dub, because as people should know by this point, Italian film production was kind of an oddity where they would shoot their movies, everyone would talk in their own languages, and then they would just dub everybody over into different markets. And so obviously this is a strange movie, watching Burt Lancaster, giant, American man, speaking Italian, doing kind of like the Burt Lancaster things, and it doesn't quite work out. So I would be curious to see what, like, because apparently the American version does have Burt Lancaster's voice in it, but apparently Luchino Visconti was not a fan. The studio did it without his approval. Goddamn Fox.
Fox.
Yeah, 20th Century Fox.
20th Century Fox.
Yeah, or 20th Century Films, whatever they would have been called at that point. Probably
Damn.
Fox. Dirtbags, right? 20th Century Fox it was.
I have a horse in... No, I don't have a horse in that race. I have an opinion.
Yeah.
But I'll get to it when I talk.
You
Do your thing.
I don't know. I'm just touching on a few different thoughts. But so my takeaway from this is this movie, absolutely looks amazing.
Yep.
It is like, just what a visual feast. That, it looks great. I don't know what really... Like, I couldn't describe the plot too well because I was just like, I was just watching it. It felt like I've seen this movie a dozen times in other places. It felt very familiar. The characters all felt like, it felt like Gone with the Wind, I guess, when I was watching it. But I think it's better than Gone with the Wind, arguably. Once 20 years later, and probably there's a lot of, it's like that epic period drama film kind of genre that exists, that you're going to either be into or you're not going to like this type of thing. But I think for this type of example of it, it looks incredible. And people should absolutely watch The Leopard. But RJ, I'm wondering, curious, what did you think of this film?
All right. So I might surprise you, Jarrett. I actually like The Leopard, which I think maybe not surprising, but I think sometimes my character is against movies of the such, long movies. Italians in general, and things of that nature. I like The Leopard. I think it's good, but I think it has a few flaws. So here's my take on this thing. So obviously up front, the production, everything looks awesome. Like the sets, all of the mansions, the scenery when they're outside, and it's just like hills, luscious hills. I think their costumes or like their outfits are like super, super nice. And I also like the quality that some of the hair and makeup has, when they're going to mass and stuff, and they have like dust and chalk kind of on their faces. Oh yes, after they've just after they've been traveling, they immediately go there, and you're like, why do they look like they're dead? Well, because I was wondering, because I'm a good old Catholic boy, as you know, and I was just like, so there's all these like mass things in there, and I was like, because they all had it, and I was like, is that like part of their mass? Is that they like get like chalk or dust on their face or something like that? And I was like, no, I think it's just like they're just dirty, because later on you see that people just have like dust and dirt on their suits, like on their backs and stuff, because they're just walking around like dirt roads and shit. And I was like, I actually thought that was a really neat, like, kind of like such a subtle little aspect that they could have in there. But it's like one of those things, it's like that's a really nice touch, because when I usually don't notice that kind of stuff, but I noticed it, and I was like, man, it's almost like the Lubitsch touch, if you know what I'm talking about. Wow. You know what I mean, Jer? The lube himself. So yeah, the production is terrific. So I see why like people talk about this movie so fondly. And that one scene where it is like the war stuff, you wish there was more of that, because like it's pretty cool. Even though like if you pay attention to certain individuals who aren't in the spotlight and you see them kind of lazily clunking around their bayonets, you're like, well, not all the extras are giving it their all, and that's fine.
You get what you pay for sometimes.
Yeah, that's fine. But it would have been cool to have kind of more of that stuff. So yeah, production's really good. Big Bert, he's wicked. I really like his character, and so kind of what I said earlier is I actually do feel that like you can sympathize with him more than anyone else, him over anyone else. I don't think anyone else is even likable really. So you sympathize with him because I feel at the end he's like he's not even denouncing it. He just realizes that it's all kind of like a farce, and he's just like, fuck all this stuff. Even though he has the big monologues about like, I actually like his stuff because it's kind of like it's almost about mortality, but also like mortality of like social classes and stuff. And he's like, he makes good points where he's like, the middle class doesn't want to get rid of the upper class. They want to be the upper class. And he's like, and they will. And then all that's going to happen is everyone will be together, and then it'll go back to the way it is. And then he talks about Sicily and just people in general, where when the politicians trying to convince him to run for office, and he's just like, nah. And he's like, they don't want that. He's like, people say they want change, but what they actually want is to just be lulled into this sleep where things are as they should be. And the reason I like that is because it's like, I find, especially, you know, with current political and topical events that are happening, there are a lot of people. There's a lot of people who aren't, but there are a lot of people who you can tell it's just like, yeah, these people are just very complacent with what's happening. It's like, yeah, people don't really like the change in things because they don't know how to handle it. So you're like, I liked what he said. Like sometimes he comes off a little bit like, you're like, oof, like that's some outdated kind of strong politics. But I do think like there are things in general where it's even if you don't agree with it, I think there's like universalities about it, like things that are even common now. You're just like, yes, some stuff like that still happens now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Sure. Well,
or am I out to lunch?
No, I mean, there's like these like nice moments that are kind of in the movie where like inevitably, you know, like while I was watching this, like I could kind of call like, okay, so here's the soldiers. They're like the red shirts. They're like they're like fighting, and they're taking over. They're winning the streets. They're sticking it to the man. But inevitably, at the drop of a hat, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, they're gonna like concede, be like, hey, everything's great now. Garibaldi, that's a long time ago. Like, because that's the way like history is. Like things kind of return to a normalcy. Everybody wants that. There's like these like upticks, and then it comes back down, and you just hope that you're not the one that's hanging at the end of a rope, like during that point. And so sometimes you lay low, you get out of dodge, you let everybody go through the motions, and then you just like recoup. You get those marriages going together. You're like, oh, I lost some stuff. Got to marry my a family member off. Make those things off together.
The dowry.
Like, and so like, I mean, there is like always this like weird defense, I guess you could make, like, well, you know, rich people have it hard too. It's like, I'm not happy. I have to marry my family members off to this other family that no one even likes either. I don't even like this guy. This guy's a piece of shit. And I love that guy. He like
Don Caligaro.
Yeah, he was so good. Like his style of acting, like he was great. Like the build up with him, like you could tell he was like playing this like kind of you know, not over the top, like cunning character,
sheepish,
playing along with things, playing the angles, making these like deliberate choices of like pleasing to get what he wants. Really well done. Like there's like all these like really great little scenes like that I think
a lot of politicizing, Jarrett.
Yeah, politicking.
You know? A little politicking. No, I think you're right. Like, so one of the Garibaldi things, which is really well done, is when he's talking to his nephew, and he's like, "What about the colors?" And they all like look at him. They're like, "We don't do colors anymore, you old man." They're like, "That's old news." And then that's like where I think it really starts to hammer on him that he's like being phased out. Right. In a way where, and you do get a nice kind of contrast with all the other old phased out people that are like present at the ball and stuff, and like he sees them and how people interact with them, and he's just like, you can tell he realizes he's becoming one of those old phased out people, and you're like, that's nice. Like it's nice that it's kind of in there like that. I also, so the way you kind of talked about the one character, he does a really good job, and that kind of shows one of the things that's really good in this is entrances in this movie are really well done, where it's like the performance of the entrance, where like Don Calogero, he's just like, my daughter's coming, she's always late, she'll come later, but it's like part of his thing that he does, and then she has that kind of grand entrance where she comes in. I actually thought that was like more than once in this movie, there's these big entrances where it really kind of pulls your attention to it, and there's a few ways where he does that. One that is also really well done, which is hilarious, is when Angelica, the girl, wants to dance with Burt Lancaster, and like you see the nephew and he's like kind of twiddling his thumbs, and cuts to her and she's like, he didn't want me to dance with you, he's jealous. And then it cuts back to him and all of a sudden he's like completely sweating all over his face. I thought it was really funny. I was like, man. I was like, that's hilarious.
Yeah, they were also sweaty.
Oh yeah, you really get the sense of heat. They're all fanning themselves in those gigantic dresses. But yeah, so anyways, I like Burt Lancaster's character, like, and I like the way he approaches some of the things. So I think there's a lot of good things in this movie, but I do also think that there's a lot that kind of bogs it down a little bit, where this movie is too long. And I know people get mad when we say movies are too long. I don't give a shit. This movie is way too long. There's so many scenes of just dancing where it's like, I understand why they're doing this. It's like, but if you cut some of that stuff out, it would really kind of like,
apparently the American version does.
I know, it's like, I bet the American version's not bad actually. It's just there's too much of that, and I think it kind of like, it almost loses track of what it's actually doing, because there were a few points when I was watching this near the end, I figured like I got it all, but there were some points when I was watching, I was kind of like, it's like the worst part about this movie is like the story itself that's going on, because it's like this guy's marrying off his nephew. He's like, who gives a shit? And then you like get these long scenes and you're like, yeah. So it like kind of goes on a little bit too long for some of those things. And then even some of that itself, like some of the interplay with like the priest, you're like, is this needed? Is this like that important here? And then I don't know how.
I forget the priest.
Yeah, because he's in like the first hour,
heavy,
and then like not at all. Like halfway through the movie, he's like never seen again. So you're like, was his character that necessary for this, or I don't know.
Maybe that's because the role of the church, it lessens.
I guess.
It's symbolic.
So the thing about this movie is, I think some of the stuff that it's saying is better. Some of its parts are better than it is as a sum as a whole. So like I like individual elements of it more than I like the movie as a whole. Does that make sense? I know that's kind of weird, but no. There's things about it that I think are really well done, and I think the idea of Coke is better than Coke itself. The execution of some of it isn't as good as I think it could be, but I mean, I don't have any like, I don't know how to do it better. I'm not an asshole, you know, like I don't know how to improve it. It's just there's some areas that are lacking. You know what I mean, Jer?
Sure.
You know what I mean?
You know, I kept a couple times Salvatore Giuliano came to mind.
Oh, yeah.
And I think there's like, I mean, obviously they're both Italian movies, but like, because there's these moments of like talking about the mafioso, and I was like, whoa, 1860 mafioso. And then there's like also the when the Capillaneri, the like, you know, the Italian RCMP show up, it's like, or they make some comment about that. I'm like, oh yeah, Salvatore Giuliano, which came out the year before this, and was also in Martin Scorsese's top 12 films of all time list, along with The Leopard.
Both of them?
Nope.
Scorsese just likes everything.
Well, he likes those were his, and that and Paisan from Roberto Rossellini. Those are his. And 8.5, four Italian movies.
Well, doesn't he really like Iron Man 2? Isn't that an Italian movie?
Well, yeah, I think it might have knocked Vertigo off the list.
Yeah, well, I mean, rightfully so. No. Right? Rightfully so. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I do see I see why it gets put into these conversations. I will admit, the first half hour, I was kind of like, what's this movie? Why is this in here?
Well, because it drops you into it. It doesn't. There's no like title card saying 1860. You're just like, hey, there's like a bunch of people, some sort of like military action that's happening, and then word gets to these people after like they've been like living their Sunday, everything's just great, standing around, and then suddenly a letter comes and they're like, here's the newspaper clipping. They've done something. Oh boy, they're coming for us. And there's like a real terror, which is kind of nice to see. That like, holy shit, yeah, these people are afraid because if these people get them, they're going to kill them, and they have to leave. And there's like that. Do we stand our ground, make a point, or it's like, nah, we just roll off the punches and hit the road and figure out things afterwards. And there's and as he looks out upon the land, it's like, I got to give it all up. Because there's like that breakdown because when the priest is giving a talk about like how we can't go back to that way of living. Like there's so many great things about having the rich have this money, because then the church helps everybody by getting the money from the rich. That's the way it should be.
Do you think that's the way it should be?
What do you think, RJ?
I know you're a big Catholic boy, so I'm not sure.
The biggest.
The biggest.
Yeah, I'm so Catholic. I've come all the way around to being an atheist. It's just crazy that way.
Correct. But actually, so like that's kind of what I mean, where it's like the conversations they have about like church and state, and then like the rich and upper class. It's like I don't really agree with any of that shit, but I do like the way that he has a compelling argument. I just like the way it's kind of formed, and he's talking about. It's like I said earlier, people being asleep and not actually wanting change. It's like I get it. I see what he's talking about. So, what are you gonna do?
Word to your mother.
Right, bud? Huh?
You want to hear from who hates this movie?
A lot of people dunking on rich people, I'm assuming.
Hey, apparently, old Visconti, he wanted Laurence Olivier to play the lead.
Oh.
One of his choices.
I don't know if it would have as much. It wouldn't pack as big of a punch if it wasn't Burt Lancaster, but whatever.
Well, and apparently the producer said it has to be either Gregory Peck, Anthony Quinn, Spencer Tracy, or Burt Lancaster.
I think they made the right call.
Yeah, but apparently they went with Burt Lancaster without consulting Visconti. But apparently they wound up working together great, and their resulting friendship, quote, lasted the rest of their lives, with Lancaster calling Visconti the finest director I've ever worked with.
That's nice.
I love Burt Lancaster, by the way. I think he's a terrific actor.
Hey, did you know Burt Lancaster is noted for his athletic physique and distinctive smile, which he called the grin? Quote.
He was an acrobat.
Did he coin the phrase grin?
And he inspired Robin, I believe.
The Robin?
Yeah. There's only
like
one.
Like the Flying Robins?
Yeah.
Wow.
He's the original Dick Grayson.
Wow. Or the Flying Graysons, even.
Yeah.
Wow.
Allegedly.
Huh. All right.
So, who hates the Leopard?
Uh-huh.
Indira.
Okay.
Half a star. I'm sorry, but watching rich aristocrats complain about losing their privilege for 3 hours is the worst thing ever.
I mean, that's pretty
it is the worst thing ever. I can't think of anything worse than watching a movie about this.
What about Chicago, for which they gave 5 stars?
Well, there you go.
What about the new?
Well, that's got John C. That does have John C. Reilly in it.
What about the new Suspiria? Does that have the new John, or does that have John C. Reilly in it?
No, it doesn't have John C. Reilly in it.
That's also 5 stars apparently.
Oh,
so is Mandy. I don't know. Let's go to Indira's horror favorites. Oh, look at these great horror films. Quaidon. The new Suspiria. Babadook. Fucking It, the movie that you love.
It too?
Just It. Mandy, fucking The Cremator. People just can't get enough of The Cremator, apparently. I don't know what that is. Like, these movies stink. Get out of here. Get out of here. I try to find other funny things, but half star to Mother? Half star to Clockwork Orange? Oof. All right.
We got Melly. 1 star. The set is beautiful, and I really tried. Oh, people always say that, don't they?
I really tried to like this.
Guys,
I really
I have to tell you, I really try to like this, but it's the absolute worst piece of shit I've ever seen in my life. If you're like, what movie are you talking about? You're talking about The Leopard? And usually I adore Visconti's films as the great storyteller that he is.
Of course, usually.
But this one nearly put me to sleep. It's so long, and I think I need to learn more about Italy's history and then watch it again to understand it, cause this was so confusing. I didn't have the energy to finish it. I gave up.
Usually, see, I can't stand. I tried so hard, but I gave up. I usually like this. It's like if you don't like it, you don't like it. Don't make fucking excuses. Just say that and be like, I don't like it. It's like I didn't even try to like it. That's what I would say, right, Jer?
Yeah.
5 stars to Leon the Professional.
Of course.
That keeps coming up tonight. 5 stars. Here's some real Jarrett picks. 5 stars to The Love Witch. 5 stars to A Quiet Place.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, no, that movie's shit.
Oh.
It's real shit, Jarrett. 5 stars to Roma. 5 stars to Portrait of a Lady on Fire, The Night of the Hunter, and Call Me by Your Name. Because of course, and as some people are going to be like, those aren't bad movies. It's like, yeah, I know.
You know what?
But it's typical.
Did they give In Bruges 5 stars?
I didn't see that on there, but I'm not doubting it. Here's some weird 1-star films: Wildlife, Future Creep by Paul Dano.
Yep.
Shadows, the Paul Cassavetes movie.
John.
Who's Paul Cassavetes?
You keep saying Paul Cassavetes. And I'm confused.
I keep saying that.
That's the second time you said it this week.
This week? Well,
not on air, but like now
who
on
the fuck
air.
Is Paul Cassavetes?
I don't know.
Paul Cassavetes. He appears to be. No, that's John Cassavetes. Where's Paul? Images of Paul Cassavetes. He was in Rosemary's Baby.
John Cassavetes was.
Paul Cassavetes?
No.
There is no Paul Cassavetes. I have no idea what I'm talking about.
No. How about Noemi?
All right, let's see.
1 star. Watched under torture by my history teacher.
No fucking way. There's no way a history teacher was showing fucking The Leopard.
It's possible.
Okay, I found something weird. I never mentioned it before because I didn't care. But this person and the last person, favorite films, Cinema Paradiso. What does that mean?
That's a movie that people really like.
Cinema Paradiso?
No.
All right. This person, I don't know. Have you heard of A24, Jarrett?
I'm aware.
I think that's
a movie studio that people think is like this great herald of cinema, but it's like, no, it's just part of the sad state of cinema where like all independent films have to come out from one studio. One like weird like independent or one distributor, I guess.
Alleged and yeah. This person has so it's stuff like Midsommar, but then also like for 5 stars, like A24 movies, but then also 5 stars to Chicago and A Quiet Place also. I don't know why all these people love A Quiet Place. It's not a good show. Maybe I'm the asshole. I doubt that.
You might be.
I prefer to think, I'm not the asshole. This person gave Spirited Away 2 stars. So, do with that as you will. How could anyone not like Spirited Away? It's just a nice little movie. So bad dudes and dudettes.
And even dudettes.
Well, I think dudes is non-gendered. I call everyone dudes. Guys, girls.
Yeah. You don't call them you don't call them babes?
Hey, babe, why aren't you smiling? You ever heard that one in a bar before?
No, I haven't.
Oof, you're lucky.
Well, there you go.
Huh?
There you go, big boy. Yes, yeah. Any other thoughts on The Leopard?
No.
No. Very well.
I think I said my fill.
All right, then. After the break, we go walk off into a decrepit, rundown Italian alley call it a day, like we always should have, right from the get-go,
I do that after every podcast.
and go 206 episodes, huh?
Is that how far we are?
Yeah.
It's depressing.